Good evening, and welcome to our holiday special. Tonight we have three people for whom 1985 was a very good year. Three people who, in spite of having been down, have never been out. Three people who have come back with three of this year's hottest television shows. Sybil Shepherd appeared in a remake of the Hitchcock classic, The Lady Vanishes, with Angela Lansbury. But then again, almost every actor and actress in Hollywood has shared the screen with Angela.
Herriman's Herbal, as drunk by 1 million Mexicans.
She averaged more than a movie a year since she started in films in 1944, but Angela Lansbury's name never topped the marquee.
I've just spent an unforgettable 4 years here in Bavaria, and now I'm going back to England.
Case in point, did you remember that Angela Lansbury played Elizabeth Taylor's older sister in National Velvet?
Velvet, you're too young to understand some things. Have you ever really felt keen about anything? Oh, yes, horses. Oh, you know.
Or that she was Ingrid Bergman's maid in Gaslight. That was Angela's first movie.
Of course not. What do you want out of Ned Trent?
In The Harvey Girls, she played the villainous saloon girl opposite the virtuous Judy Garland.
If you meant anything to him, he wouldn't have sent the judge over to tell you. Ned Trent can talk for himself.
Never mind, Matthews. You can't have that, Mr. Hardy. Labor as a whole must make those appointments.
She was promoted to newspaper publisher for the film State of the Union. The film co-starred Angela Lansbury, but it starred Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. Often her directors were even more famous than she. It was Cecil B. DeMille who speared her to the wall in Samson and Delilah. But make no mistake, Angela didn't play Delilah because Angela Lansbury almost always lost her man.
I'll pick you up.
Pick who up?
By the 1960s, Angela's cameo roles had grown older. She played Elvis Presley's mother in Blue Hawaii.
I guess we'll be arriving soon. We're having cocktails at 7 and dinner at 8:30.
But Angela was used to being cast for older parts. At one point, she even played Lawrence Harvey's mother, while in truth, she was only 3 years his senior. She got 3 Oscar nominations along the way, playing mothers, matrons, maids, madams, and moguls. But her success story really happened on Broadway with her smash performance in Mame. She won the first of her 4 Tonys for Best Performance in a Musical for Mame. The original was in 1966.
Sweeney Todd.
Still on Broadway, 13 years later, came her next major success in the Barber of Fleet Street musical, Sweeney Todd.
What happened then? Well, that's the play, and he wouldn't want us to give it away.
Not Sweeney.
But amazingly enough, at age 60, after 40 years in the business, 50 motion pictures, and 15 Broadway plays, Angela Lansbury has found her biggest audience ever on television, as Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote. She's no longer a character actress, she's a star. Off camera, Angela Lansbury is as much of a success story as on. She's been married to the same man for 36 years. Her husband, Peter Shaw, an ex-agent and ex-studio executive, is her business partner. Angela loves cooking and gardening, and the only trouble with acting, she says, is having to leave home to do it. But having 40 million new television fans is worth it. This wonderful, new success. Can you believe it? Has it sunk in yet?
Truthfully, it hasn't, you know. It hits me sometimes. I'm caught up short, I think is the expression by it. It's pretty boggling. I mean, I've worked much harder on a character in the theater than I do playing Jessica, because Jessica's very close to home for me.
Why?
Because she's just an easy woman. She's an easygoing woman. I don't mean the way it might sound, but you know what I'm saying. It's just that I can relate to her.
Of course, for so many years, you played women so much older than yourself. Did you mind?
Yeah, I did mind, I think, more than I ever let on. I covered it up with a sort of professional bravado and, you know, just wasn't going to let it get me down. I think I sensed in my heart of hearts that my opportunity was going to come. that I was going to get a chance to show what I could really do.
But did you want to be the lovely ingenue getting the man in the movies instead of always being the one he left?
You bet I did. I desperately wanted to look like the girls who sat at the makeup tables next to me at MGM, and I envied them.
Was the ingenue treated differently than the character actress?
Yeah, she had a better dressing room than I did. Things like that. You know? Silly, those things really rankle with you, you know, when you're young.
Oh,
you
show
think,
it.
oh, gosh, how come she gets to have this and I don't, you know, and got to play with all the handsome young guys who were on the lot, like Peter Lawford, you know, and Frank Sinatra.
And they would say, oh, hello, Angela.
Yeah, they kind of...
Oh, yeah, hi there.
Yes, oh, hello, yes. I was never a part of it.
Oh.
And, don't, it's all right. I had my moments. I had, you know, I got out and about, don't worry. Gee, I got married when I was 18.
I know that. Well, you've been married for so long. The second husband. The first husband was...
Only 9 months.
9 months.
Yes.
Did you learn enough from those 9 months to make the next marriage last? How long is it now? 36 years?
36, going on 37.
I mean, that's phenomenal, and especially in Hollywood.
Yeah, it is, yes. I think I learned, yes, I think I did. It's better, much better the second time around, I think.
How come you don't get bored with each other?
Because I think that we, or at least I understand, because being a woman, I think I understand the necessity that marriage really has to be worked at all the time. You cannot assume or take anything for granted in a marriage, ever.
Did you ever get a crush on any of the leading men?
Oh, I always had a slight crush, you know.
You never got carried away?
I never got carried away. No, I never got carried away. But when I was very young, it was hard not to.
Anyone you'd like to tell us about?
Well, like John Hodiak, I always remember, in the Harvey Girls. I thought he was pretty spiffy, you know.
Did he think he was spiffy?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No. He had his eye on Ann Baxter, you know. And there was always somebody else in the picture.
Always a bridesmaid.
Always
never
a bridesmaid, yes.
Then, after years and years of doing films, there was Mame, and you singing and dancing, and everybody discovering you. And I remember Rex Reed saying the caterpillar turned into a butterfly. Were you as amazed as they all were?
Yes, I was.
Oh.
Yes and no. I kind of, I mean, I certainly wasn't prepared for the reaction, but I knew that I could do it. I just knew I could do it. To make it happen took me more persuasion and more time and more, well, humbling myself really to get that part. It's the one time in my career that I've done that. And I did it for Mame because I knew Mame was the key that would unlock a whole new career for me and get me out of this kind of doldrums of cameo parts that I was locked into for so many years.
How did you know?
I just knew in my heart of hearts. My imagination just contained this picture of myself being able to do this, to be able to perform, to be able to take stage, to be able to command an audience, to be able to sing, to be able to dance.
Had you ever done it?
No.
Would you rather do stage than do films or television?
I would rather do, if you wanted to ask me how I wanted to go out and really enjoy myself as an actress, yes, I have to say the theater. There's no question.
But isn't it the toughest?
Yes, but then you're doing what hopefully you do best, and you're getting immediate response. You're getting an audience that's telling you if they're having a good time, if they're listening. If they're not, they're coughing and they're shuffling and they're eating candies and all the rest of it. And if they're not, and if the place is quiet and the lights are out and that spotlight is on you, it's the most thrilling feeling in the world. It's the most powerful feeling that you can possibly have. And it's heady stuff. It's quite intoxicating.
And yet I read, you did a lengthy interview sometime back, and you said, there are times when I'm on that stage when I say to myself, what the hell am I doing here? I really want to go home.
Well, you talk about split personality. I have a very split. I'm very split. Because I really love the work of the theater and of acting. But I also love my family and my home.
Very often when I do interviews, I say, what was the best time of your life and what was the worst time of your life? I almost don't have to say to you what was the worst time of your life, because you had 1 year in which just everything fell apart, and where the actress and the mother were both sorely tested.
Yes.
Can you tell us about
Well, you know, I think our family life took the route that a lot of families share with me in the late 1960s. My children grew up, they weren't that old, they were only 12, 13, 14 years old, and we lived in Malibu, as you know.
that? You had a son and a daughter.
I have two sons. I have a stepson, David, and my own son, Anthony, and my daughter, Deirdre. David was all right. He was a little older. He was 9 years older than them, and he managed to circumvent the drug years. They, unfortunately, did fall by the wayside, and they got into drugs, hard drugs. And most of the kids in Malibu did. They weren't alone, and our next-door neighbor and my son's best friend was unfortunately a victim of that period and died. And my son was on the way to doing the same thing. There's no question about it.
It was heroin?
Heroin, yes. Heroin, acid, you name it, they did it, the lot. And in those days, it was, you didn't talk about it. It was a terrible family skeleton that you kept in the closet. We were the generation of parents who had to face it first without any help, except from doctors, friends, and the advice that we got was really not very helpful. So I just didn't know what to do, and Peter didn't know what to do, and finally, I think a wonderful thing happened.
They're so well now, though. They're so well now. Think of that. You say that a wonderful thing happened, but as I remember, in the midst of all that, your house burned down. That seems to be a horrible thing.
Well, that turned, oddly enough, turned out to be the thing that opened the door to a solution in my mind. Our lovely house in Malibu, which we'd lived in for 10 years, was just razed by one of the big fires in 1970. I said to Peter, look, let me go to Ireland and let me find a house for us. And perhaps if we totally change our way of life and we go back to basics, and I'm there and they're with me, and you come when you can, but let me get them out of here. Let us get them out of here. So Ireland represented a sort of oasis in the desert, a clean place, a place that drugs had not reached. So I went to Ireland, and my son Anthony said, can I come with you? And I said, yes, but let me go first and establish a beachhead. And Peter put him on a plane, and he came to Ireland, and he was literally taken off practically on a stretcher. I never forget it. It was very interesting. Incredible experience for him and for me. It didn't matter. We were safe. We were on safe ground. And for the first time, after a period of 4 months, this boy was clean. And of course, it was a revelation to see him that way, and it was extraordinary.
And the kids were fine.
The kids,
it worked.
The kids, it worked.
What was the most important thing, perhaps, that you and Peter learned about your family, about the kids, about this?
To be there.
To be there.
Mm-hmm. Just to be there, just to back up. Just to try for us not to fall apart. All it means is that the whole fabric of the family isn't broken apart. And in the long run, that is better. Because if the child can beat it, they will know that the family is ready to take them back and accept them when they're ready. Because they are the only ones who can do it.
Did you ever feel guilty that when all of this was happening, you were on Broadway? That is, you were working.
Of course. Oh, God, yes. And in fact, you see, some of the greatest triumphs in the theater were accompanied by the most horrendous personal things going on behind the scenes. This mask we put on when we go out there is a mask. And we are mummers and performers, you know, we put on this air of being happy and carefree and gay, and of course we have this other river of emotion that is running through our lives all the time, which has to do with our families, our children, our husbands, their health, what is happening to them, how they react. They have to deal with the success of the person who's up there all the time. And it makes life for them much more difficult.
Where were you at this point in your life?
At an interesting stage, really, with a television series that I find artistically it does not challenge me, but it gives me a personal sense of achievement as a performer that I have never known before. Where I go from here, I don't know. I really don't know. I will always go on working, I know that.
You once called yourself a rare bird. You said I was, and I am. Remember?
Yes. I am rare by dint of the talent that was given to me. That's all. And I think those of us who are the receivers of talent, and we must use it. We must not waste it. We mustn't fritter it away. And we mustn't mishandle it if we can possibly avoid it. Because I don't take credit for what I do. I think of it as a God-given talent.